User A is a female college student at a university, and there are a total of 6 people in their dormitory, all of whom get along well. During the vacation, 5 people in the dormitory agreed to go to another city together. Upon arrival at the destination, A and F stayed in a large bedroom, while the other 3 stayed in the adjacent room, and everything began from here. According to A, when she walked into the room, she didn't quite like it. The room was old, with some strange decorations, especially the old dressing mirror in the center of the room, which felt very unsettling. However, A didn't express too much at the time. As long as she could stay, it was fine. That night, after taking a shower, because they were tired from the day's activities, A and F didn't do much else, just chatted briefly on the bed before going to sleep. However, A didn't sleep well. Just as she was about to fall asleep, she suddenly heard a strange sound coming from the room, sparse and faint, as if coming from the TV cabinet. At first, a thought it was F rummaging through plastic bags looking for water, so she asked F to turn on the light. But as soon as she finished speaking, she felt a poke on her back. When she turned around, F was lying next to her, eyes wide open with fear. It wasn't F rummaging through the plastic bags. Before she could react, the strange sound came again, and F's eyes looked even more terrified. They wondered where the sound was coming from, suspecting that someone had broken into the room. I nervously looked towards the TV cabinet, but there was nothing there. The plastic bags in front of the cabinet were intact. It was then that A noticed the plastic bag on the cabinet, made of hard material. It couldn't have produced such a sound if someone was rummaging through things. The noise became unbearable, and A couldn't take it anymore. She picked up the remote control and turned on the TV. Immediately, the sound stopped. It was almost midnight by then. They attributed all the strange noises to rats in the hotel and weren't too scared. A few minutes later, as there were no more strange noises in the room, they started feeling sleepy. I turned off the TV and tried to sleep. However, just as they were about to fall asleep, the strange sound returned. A and F were terrified, looking at each other nervously. F decided to turn on the bedside lamp to investigate further. But to their horror, as soon as she did, the sound stopped again. A and F were on the verge of going crazy, so they had no choice but to sleep with the TV on mute. However, not long after, the sound of rummaging came again. This time, A was angry. She picked up the remote control and smashed it against the TV cabinet. The room was quiet, but only for a few seconds. Then, something even more bizarre happened. The curtains in the room began to rustle as if there were a strong wind blowing, but they hadn't opened the windows, so it was impossible for there to be wind. The whole situation seemed like someone was angrily pulling the curtains to express dissatisfaction. F quickly picked up the phone to call the front desk, but oddly, the phone couldn't make a call. There was no sound at all. They tried to dial the front desk phone, but there was no response. Just then, the curtains suddenly stopped rustling. The sudden silence made it even scarier. A and F looked at each other, exhausted but too scared to sleep. After about 10 minutes, seeing that everything seemed fine, they wanted to sleep. But suddenly there was the sound of fingers tapping on the headboard of A's bed, getting faster and faster, scaring both A and F to tears. At that moment, a thought of using her phone to ask for help from the neighboring room, where D was still awake. D quickly came to their rescue. However, as they left in a hurry, they didn't take their luggage, and the room key was still plugged in. F's protective charm suddenly broke, but fortunately, they left the room. Afterward, they told the others about what had happened, but the others didn't react much, as they hadn't experienced it themselves and didn't know how scary it was. The 5 of them huddled together to sleep, but just then, the strange sound came again, like someone banging on the wall, seemingly coming from A's room and getting louder and louder. Among them, C, who had a relatively fiery temper, couldn't stand it anymore. She got out of bed and started pounding on the wall, cursing. Surprisingly, this move worked, and the banging on the wall stopped. It was already past 2 a.m. and everyone went to sleep. This time, they finally slept until dawn. The next morning, because they hadn't taken out the room key before fleeing the previous night, they went to the front desk to ask them to open the door. After that, they quickly packed their things and didn't dare to stay any longer. However, when it was time to check out, they found that the room key was missing. That's when they realized that the lights in the room hadn't been turned off. They had left with the room key plugged in. Who had unplugged the room key? I didn't dare to think too much about it. She directly told the front desk to check out, but the front desk didn't buy it. They insisted on charging A. Hearing this, C got angry and started filming, shouting that there were ghosts in the room and she would upload the video online. Seeing this, the front desk rushed to grab the phone, and the 2 of them started wrestling. In the struggle, C accidentally hit the ancient mirror in the center of the room. The mirror fell off the wall and shattered. The commotion was too loud, and people in the corridor started gathering. The hotel manager, afraid of making a scene, didn't mention compensation again. With a wave of her hand, she hurriedly asked them to leave. The group quickly made their way to the train station. After getting on the train, F rummaged through her bag and found the room key inside. However, just now, no matter how she searched, it wasn't there. And A and F were sure they hadn't removed the room key when they left the room last night. It felt as if something had left the hotel with them, along with the room key. After getting off the train, F, afraid, casually threw away the room key. Later, they continued their itinerary in another city as planned for 2 days, and nothing happened during those 2 days. Everyone had a good time. Back at school, as time passed, I gradually forgot about the incident. Until 2 weeks later, the incident that I thought was over began to happen again.